News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Monica Rix. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the U.S. will not back down on taking over Greenland, adding Europe is too weak to ensure its security.
I believe that the Europeans will understand that this is best for Greenland, best for Europe, and best for the United States.
Bessent telling NBC's Meet the Press taking Greenland should not spell the end of NATO. A German military reconnaissance team has already left Greenland after being deployed there for just 44 hours. But European lawmakers have also called for a halt to a U.S.-EU trade truce, and France wants to activate the European Union's so-called trade bazooka, an anti-coercion instrument that uses trade measures to pressure policy choices by the EU or its members. Up until now, it's never been used. Whether Trump's tariffs take effect also depends on a pending ruling from the Supreme Court. And Wall Street is looking ahead to Tuesday to hear from those justices. Bloomberg's Nathan Hager's in Washington.
The High Court has gone through 2 opinion days this year without ruling on President Trump's emergency tariffs. Investors will see whether the third day is the one. The justices have said this Tuesday as their next opinion day. As usual, the High Court never says which cases it will decide on until the justices return to the bench. If a tariff ruling doesn't come this week, it could be a while. The Supreme Court's scheduled for a month-long break starting after this Wednesday. In Washington, I'm Nathan Hager, Bloomberg Radio.
The Supreme Court's expected to hear oral arguments on Wednesday and decide whether the president has the authority to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook for cause. The president accused Cook of alleged mortgage fraud last year, which she denies. Former Fed Chair Janet Yellen talked to Bloomberg about it, and she says a ruling in Trump's favor would be devastating.
This is just going too far, because when a president weaponizes the Department of Justice and uses pretenses to go after enemies, we're not living in a democracy anymore if that's allowed to happen.
Hear more from Janet Yellen on the Everybody's Business podcast. Trump's also tried to fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell for cause following repeated attacks for not lowering interest rates enough. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett says President Trump may well keep him in his current job, which would eliminate him from replacing Jerome Powell as the next Fed chair.
From the beginning, he and I have talked about whether it's better for me to be here in the West Wing or over at the Fed. I don't think he's made a final call on that. But I got to say that I'm even humbled still, perhaps, to be in the running with the other people.
Hassett on Fox's Sunday News briefing. He'd been seen as a frontrunner to lead the central bank till recently, with Fed Governors Christopher Waller, Kevin Warsh, and BlackRock executive Rick Rieder also on Trump's short list. Rieder's candidacy is said to be gaining momentum. President Trump's economic and geopolitical agenda hit the global stage this week. Here's Bloomberg's Andrew O'Day.
He is slated to address the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Trump's National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett says among items the president plans to announce at Davos will be a plan for letting savers in 401k retirement plans use some of their money for down payments on a home purchase. Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
Violent clashes continue in Minneapolis amid pro-ICE demonstrations now happening in the city.
They're the only ones escalating.
The FBI has asked agents to head to Minneapolis to aid ICE. The Pentagon also has troops on standby. The CDC keeps flagging surging flu and measles cases, which actually just marked the highest number of cases in the U.S. last year since the early 90s. Dr. Alok Patel is a pediatrician in the Bay Area.
The majority of cases were in children and teens, and over 90% of cases were in those who were unvaccinated.
In the last 10 days alone, health officials have confirmed hundreds of measles cases in states like South Carolina. And a bill to protect children from social media harms is moving forward, but it's catching some heat on Capitol Hill. Bloomberg's Amy Morris explains from Washington.
The Kids Off Social Media Act, or COSMA, would ban kids under 13 from accessing social media accounts and require tech companies to delete existing accounts of young children. But some lawmakers, civil rights groups, and tech officials say COSMA raises concerns about free speech, government overreach, and individual privacy. An alternative proposal would require social media companies to prevent harm to minors, and it has enough support for Congress to pass now. In Washington, Amy Morris, Bloomberg Radio.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Monica Rix, and this is Bloomberg.